Good evening and welcome to Sports Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network. My name is Kinsley Mano and I'm very happy this evening to bring you another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary. We have a whole lot on our menu this evening. On today's edition of the show, we shall take an in-depth review and preview on the UEFA Champions League matches as well as other stories revolving around the world of sport. It promises to be another exciting edition of the show. So we urge you to sit tight as we're ready to take you 360 around the world of sports this evening. We'll take a short break now, and when we'll come back, of course, we'll dive straight into all that you need to know revolving around the world of sports at this moment. Please stay with us.
With the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight them. He does the right hand, and down goes Paul straight away. Elsewhere. Beyond, he's revealing the defensive. Oh, what a point to end it on. So now, this is when you're at the bench. It's when you're 12 years for this. So drink it in. Still goes to one. What he loves to the immortality as an athlete. 19.79. It's a goal. It's 8 goals.
You're welcome back. Still Sports Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network. Joining me on today's edition of the show is Emmanuel Michael. Good evening to you, Michael, and welcome to Sports Extraordinary.
Yeah, good evening to you, Kinsley, and good evening to our viewers out there. It's another night of Champions League football. We are ready to go.
Another night of UEFA Champions League football was really an exciting night yesterday in the UEFA Champions League, and tonight we'll see some interesting crackers as well. But before we take a look at the UEFA Champions League, let's take a look at other matters revolving around the world of sports. As the Minister of Sports Development, Senator John Wanino, yesterday received rising gymnastics sensation Stephanie Okechukwu in his office in Abuja after the outstanding performance of the 13-year-old at the recently concluded National Games in Asaba, Delta State. Little Stephanie won 4 gold medals in gymnastics, blazing the trail in the sport and displaying huge potentials of promise during the games. Senator Eno congratulated Stephanie for her spectacular achievements and promised that the ministry will pay close attention to her growth and development. Michael, what do you make of the gesture from the sport minister to the young gymnast?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a good one, but I believe, I hope rather that it's not going to be a lip service like what we used to hear in the past, where when we have this young talent, a whole lot of promises come from different quarters, claiming that they will be supporting such an athlete to make sure that he or she achieve his goal and aim. But at the tail end, no, we won't see any positive results. So for me, I think it's a nice, statement, but it goes beyond making this kind of, sugar-coated and sweet statement out there. They should actually back it up with a pragmatic steps toward, ensuring that these young ones that we've been able to discover in the just concluded National Youth Games are properly taken care of. They should be provided with needed in training facilities and other financial support as well, which is very, very important to ensure that these young upcoming, teens that we have who have shown their, the caliber of quality that they have. If there is a deliberate actions, pragmatic one, for that matter, to ensure that this young one get the needed support, I think it will be a good one for Nigeria.
Good one, of course, for Nigeria. The sports minister, of course, trying to, put his word, to reality. Of course, he said that the purpose of the National Games was to unearth young talents. And now, of course, he's trying to put that into reality by sporting young Stephanie, talking about the gymnast, at the age of 13. And we hope, of course, this will really go a long way in making sure that, Stephanie gets to, a very, very enviable height, in her career. Let's stay away from that to talk about, athletics as Bahrain Kemi Adekoya who was stripped of for the 2018 title for doping. Won the Asian Games 400 meters hurdle gold over yesterday. While Olympic champion Liu Shenheng crashed in the javelin in a shock. Adekoya throws herself back into the spotlight by crossing first in a game's record 54.45 seconds to consolidate her strong showing at the Budapest World Championship, where she finished fourth. China Mo Jedi took silver, and Indian Vitaya Aramja took a bronze medal. The 30-year-old Adekoya won at the 2014 Asian Games in the Incheon after switching allegiance from Nigeria, and again came first at Jakarta 4 years later. But she was stripped of her 2018 hurdles and missed 4 by 400 relay gold after testing positive for prohibited steroid steno solo. She was banned for 4 years, and of course, after that 4 years, she came back to put another record for her. Michael, so interesting to know that this particular athlete, of course, is from Nigeria.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And she came to the limelight in 2013/2014, where she, displayed her talent in the world stage, where the world get to know her. And unfortunately, though, because of the way we go about treating some of, our heroes that have served us in the past and even present, she had to switch her allegiance to other country, and it clearly tells you that most time we have the talent here, but the needed support is not there for them to, show their talent to the world. Though in 2018, she was retrieved of her medals because of, one doping issue or the other. But she's back and very strong this time around. She's proving to the world again that away from, the controversy that surrounded her, being stripped of her gold, some of her silver medals in 2018, that truly she can actually compete in a very high stage, in a very clean and clear state. So that is what she has shown to the world this time around. It's a big congratulations to her, but also a disappointment for Nigeria, who allow her to, because of one bad treatment or the other, to switch allegiance. And so for me, I think there is need for us to take a cue, rather to learn lessons from this very one, because we've seen not just in the athletics world, also in other different categories of sport. We've seen so many Nigerians. When we talk about the likes of Anthony Joshua, the likes of Israel Adesanya, these are Nigerians who switch their allegiance to other countries. So for me, I think it behoves of us as a Nigerian, and especially in the Ministry of Sport, to be able to, treat our athletes, not just our athletes, but our sportsmen and women. We should have this deliberate policy, to make a plan so as to care for them, even those some of them that have retired. You discover that some of them that have retired, most time when they find themselves in difficulties, you discover that nobody comes for them, and it becomes very easy for some of these rising stars to switch their allegiance to other countries because of the fact that we are not getting it right, we are not doing the right thing, we are not supporting these our heroes or these our talents so that they can be able to give out their best. A few days ago, here we had a complaint from the Paralympics saying that the worst thing that ever happened to him was to represent Nigeria because of the bad treatment that that we've meted to them over the years. So for me, I think it's a very disappointing one, but a congratulations to her for what she was able to put up out there.
All right, we hope to see her, of course, putting up such impressive performance going forward. Let's stay away from that as we hear former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua has been warned against stepping into the ring against Deontay Wilder by Hall of Fame fighter Barry McCougan. Joshua versus Wilder is one of the most intriguing match-up in boxing, and the two heavyweights seem to have finally agreed that it is the right time to face off after they both lost their titles and can no longer make a unification bout. Speaking to Boxing King Media, former featherweight champion Coogan said it was good and that the fight had been delayed considering the threats, for Joshua. Promoter Eddie Hearn tells Boxing Social that the hard-hitting American is still very much the target for these charge, even despite despite the task of now finding a new side. He's also still open to Joshua fighting this December against a new opponent if the fight can't be finalized soon. So there's this talk about Joshua and Deontay Wilder, of course, looking horns, anytime soon. But a lot of person are of the fact that Joshua should just step away from this bout as it is. That this might probably, of course, send him down the lane.
Yeah, for me, I think I quite agree with that. Although this very one has been in the pipeline for some time right now, but it seems as though the two parties were not willing to lock horns with each other. It's either when Anthony Joshua is ready, then Deontay Wilder is not ready. When Deontay Wilder is ready, Anthony Joshua, is not ready. So it has been back and forth between the two camps over the couple of months, and boxing fans all over the world, were hoping and wishing to see this very bout come through. But for me, I strongly want to also suggest that I think Anthony Joshua should take it, slow. He should try to look for a weaker opponent in quotes so that he can be able to build the confidence back. Get one or two, weaker opponent out there. Use that as a stepping stone, as a springboard to, bring back that your influence to the world before he can be able to look for, heavyweight bout out there with some of these big names, the likes of Tyson Fury and the rest of them. So for me, I think he should tread with caution because if he loses this very one, I think it's going to serve going to be a very bad omen for him and for his career as well. So I quite agree with some of the sentiment from different quarters that he should take it low and try to look for some other weaker opponent and build his confidence and momentum before he can be able to, look for a big fight out there.
All right, so let's see how this one will go down, for the man, Anthony Joshua. Let's stay away from boxing as world number one. Arina Sabalenka said yesterday her performance in key moments were crucial to surviving a major scare in the China Open second round after she defeated unseeded Kotio Botia 7-5, 7-6 in Beijing. World number 4 Jessica Pegula bounced back from a set down yesterday to beat Russia and Blinkova 6-7, 6-2, 6-1. France world number 10 Caroline Garcia suffered a second set wobble before downing Kazakhstan Yulian Putintseva 6-3, 3-6, 6-3. The women's draw continues through with U.S. Open champion Kugov taking on Petra Matic of Croatia for a place in the round 3. And world number 2 Iga Swiatek is also in action against France Bevera Krejcikova. And the China Open is taking place for the first time since 2019 after Beijing ditched its isolation zero COVID policy. Let's take a look at the male category, talking about the China Open. It's been an interesting one as well when it comes to the male category, as top seed Carlos Alcaraz was knocked out of the China Open in straight sets by Jannik Sinner, who will face Daniel Medvedev in the final. Sinner won 7-6, 6-1 against Spain two-time major winner yesterday, and now lead their head-to-head 4-3. Medvedev beat Alexander Zverev 6-4, 6-3 in the other semi-final. Russia, world number 3, which 27 years, has won all 6 of his previous matches against Sinner. But the shocking one was the fact that the man Alcaraz, of course, he was actually being knocked out from this one.
Very shocking for me, and I did not actually see this one coming. But then again, you must give kudos to Jannik Sinner, because looking at their head-to-head, games before, they were on a draw slate. They were 3-3, apart. So this very one was their 4th meeting, and Jannik Sinner, proved very strong for Carlos Alcaraz in this one. But for me, I did not actually see this very one coming, considering the form of Carlos Alcaraz over the couple of months now. I had actually tipped him to go all the way to defeat Jannik Sinner, but in this kind of big match, you can't actually put your money on one of the players and say, yes, this is the most favored, because it's all about what you are able to bring to the table there. When the chips are done, can you be able to, raise your shoulder high and, display that, top-notch quality? And that is what we saw Jannik Sinner did. What he did yesterday against his opponent, talking about Carlos Alcaraz. For me, I think it looks as though Jannik Sinner has a more better plan and tactics, on how to deal with Carlos Alcaraz. And no wonder, the pattern swing in his favor yesterday. It was a great match. I had to watch some of the clips out there. It was a great match to watch out there.
Interesting one. Let's start away from that as we hear the Australian Open will become a 15-day event for the first time in 2024 in an attempt to reduce the number of late night finishes at Melbourne Park. The tournament scheduling was questioned in January after Andy Murray described his 4 a.m. finish as a first. Now the Grand Slam has added a day and will start on Sunday, January 14th. Minimum of 2 matches will be scheduled for day section on the main court rather than the 3 to cut the risk of 9 sections being delayed. The French Open is also a 15-day tournament, while Wimbledon and the US Open are played over 14 days. The Australian Open has staged 5 singles matches on each of for the 2 main show called Rod Laver Arena and Margaret Court Arena during the opening 6 days of past tournaments. 3 matches took place during the day section from 11 a.m. and 2 were scheduled from 7 p.m. for the night session. So, what do you make of this? The tournament has been pushed, to 15 days to make sure that, some of the complaints we saw last time, of course, will be eliminated.
Great innovation, great idea for me, because last time out where we saw some games, went down to late night, and you know what that means. Some of the fans looking at the stadium on some of those last games, you saw some of the fans at some point were leaving, the court, leaving the stadium. So for me, I think this is a great idea. Trying to find other ways in order to fine-tune some of these games so that it could not, they will not have late night games. For me, I think it's a nice one to add the extra day to some of the days so that they can be able to extend these games and be able to, schedule these games so that some of the games that will be played will finish on time so that people will go their home. And some of the star players as well can also, go back and rest after the games. You don't just play such hectic games, some goes for 2 hours, some 3 hours plus, and it goes down, late in the night. I mean, it has a psychological effect on some of these players. And again, the fans as well. You have to consider the fans who turn out in their number to come and cheer their, favorite players to victory. But then you cannot keep them hostage until, late night. So for me, I think it's a nice idea trying to, find a way to balance these inconveniences.
All right, at this point, we'll take a short break, and when we'll come back from this break, we'll dive straight into the beautiful world of football. Please stay with us.
Greenwoods with the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Greenwoods with the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight him. He does right hand and down goes Paul straight away.
welcome back. Steve Sports Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network. Of course, Emmanuel Mike is still here and we'll bring you the latest revolving around the world of sport. Let's talk about the Nigerian Premier Football League, as Nigerian Premier Football League has moved to cover possible existence of drug abuse by players in the league. Nigerian Premier Football League Chairman Honorable Benga Elegbele said random dope tests would be conducted in the weeks ahead following the acquisition of testing kits from the United Kingdom. Elegbele was in Port Harcourt to lend their support to Rivers United in their CAF Confederation Cup qualifier against Etoli Filante alongside Haji Ibrahim Gusso, president of the Nigeria Football Federation. What do you make of this, test, in the Nigerian Premier League by the Benga Elegbele board?
In order to enhance their performance. Most of these professional clubs out there or scouts, they frown at such kind of things. And for me, if this kind of measure is being taken in the NPFL, it will go a whole long way to improve the quality of the league, where players, are very active on the pitch, are clean from all these, drugs and all of that. I think it's a welcome development, but then again, I must also, add that there is need for them to, introduce or educate some of these players, do massive enlightenment, because most time some of these players are not even aware. They are oblivious of these, things, of the kind of drugs, of the kind of things that they take in, So for me, first, they should start with massive publicity. They should start with massive enlightenment in the side of the players. And again, they need to train some specialists in that area that can be able to administer, this doping equipment properly as it ought to. And again, I think they also need to liaise with, the NDLEA, Drug Law Enforcement Agency. This will help them because they already have personnel on ground that are professionals in that area. So for me, I think there is need for them to train professionals by liaising with the Drug Law Enforcement of Nigeria, so that they can be able to administer these things effectively as it ought to, so that they will not do the right thing. And I believe if we do that, it's going to be a plus to the NPFL.
All right, the Nigerian Premier Football League, of course, putting things, on a very, very high note. And we'll see how this one, of course, will be at the end of the day. Let's stay away from that as we take a look at other matters. Still talking about Nigerian football, as president of Nigerian Football Federation, Haji Ibrahim Gusso, has revealed that his main target right now is for the Super Eagles to pick at the 2026 World Cup that will be jointly hosted by the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico, as well as to win the African Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire, which will be played from January 13th to February the 11th, 2024. Michael, what do you make of this target, from the Nigerian Football Federation president?
I think it's a good target, but it must be followed up with pragmatic actions. It's not just a setting target without, following some of these targets, so as to make sure that you meet up with the target that you've set. Because if you set a target without a requisite deployment of the necessary tools that you can use to get this target that you've set, then at the end of the whole thing, those targets will still be futile. So for me, I think it's a good target, but then again, they need to back it up with pragmatic actions. What are those things that they need to get right? In terms of players' welfare, there is need to pay their match bonuses and allowances as at when due. There is need for us to organize Grade A friendly games during the international window. There is need for us to pay the coaches as when due. not to owe them their salaries. There is need also for us to show concern to some of these overseas-based players. Once in a while, they should have a team that can be able to reach out to these players out there. We just call to see how you are faring. I hope you are doing well with your clubs. These are things that you may think they are very little, but it goes a whole long way to tell that player that indeed his country actually cares for him.
But shouldn't it be, shouldn't there be more focus on the performance of the players on the pitch? Because that is where everything lies. If they don't play well, it means they won't win the AFCON. They won't even qualify for the World Cup in 2026. So I think more attention should be paid on the performance of the players.
And that is what I'm saying. How do you pay more attention to the performance of these players? Is it not when you pay their match bonuses and their allowances as at when due?
You can still pay match bonuses and at the end of the players do not perform well if the right approach is not taken.
That is why I said that there is need for them to always reach out to these players wherever they are in their different club sides.
It doesn't matter if you reach out to them or you don't reach out to them. Yes, it is good to reach out to them, just like we've seen gesture from Pesero sometimes.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this situation now, your performance has to be better on the pitch. If you want to win the AFCON, it means you need to play to a standard where you have to beat the likes of Morocco, you have to beat the likes of Senegal, Algeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, the host. Yes, you need to play up to that standard. But are we playing up to that standard first? That's the question. You want to qualify for the World Cup? Don't forget, we have certain South Africa in our group as well.
Yeah.
So, can we beat teams? That's the question. Do we have a good coach that can help us, win the AFCON? Do we have the right set of players on ground? Even if we have the right set of players, are they playing better to make sure we win the AFCON, possibly qualify for the World Cup as well?
Do we have the right players to do this, to get this job done? Of course, yes, we have the right players. I know most of our players, in Europe out there, they are faring very well as it stands right now. The likes of Kelechi Iheanacho and Wilfred Ndidi, though relegated to the English Championship, but they are doing very well, excellently well. I've followed their games, this season. The likes of, Boniface out there, Victor Osimhen, Taiwo Awoniyi, these are players, and they are doing very well. Ola Aina, who just won, the player of the month for his club side, talking about Nottingham Forest. Our players are doing very well.
That should be, no, Olaino, this man, is it Taiwo Awoniyi?
No, it is Olaina.
Okay.
It's Olaina. So, if generally, you can take a look at our players that are based in abroad. They are doing very well. But the problem is...
You're saying that lack of visiting these players and actually asking about their welfare is the reason why they don't play well when they come to the national team?
That is one of the problems, because you can't just stay without reaching out to these players. It is only when we have national game to play, when they assemble to the camp, before you see the NFF president coming to visit them.
But I need to ask a question here. Talking about the Moroccan players.
Yeah.
How many times do the FA president visit them? Probably, yes. Let's mention the FA president.
It might not be
how many times the Senegalese players? How many times do the FA president visit them? So for me, I don't really think it's as a result of, not visiting them probably regularly or asking for their welfare. You take a look at what happened of recent. Victor Osimhen was mocked by Napoli on their social media handle, where they were calling him coconut head due to the fact that, he missed a penalty against Bologna. The issue was all over social media.
Yeah.
The sport minister, of course, had to put up his own gesture that, please, nobody should play with Nigerians in diaspora. They should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And Nigerians, of course, stood up. And Victor Osimhen actually saw the gesture of Nigerians, towards what really happened. I think the man was a bit happy. So, for me, when it comes to asking for their welfare wherever they are, for me, I think they are doing well. It's just for them to come back and give the best, to their country. That is not really the primary thing, if you ask me. The main thing is how are they executing the matches? How are they performing when it comes to playing?
Now, if you don't care for these players, if you don't show this concern for these players, when they come to the national team and you expect them to be happy to give their all, these are some of the things. Of course, you just mentioned.
Are you saying they don't care?
But whenever these players are there, and you don't show concern whenever they have issues, most times when they are out of, the contract with some of their clubs out there, do you actually reach out to these players? These are part of the thing. You just mentioned that Nigeria stood up for Victor Osimhen because of the controversy that we saw in the social media where there is this TikTok issue trying to mock him. Nigeria stood up for him, and then we showed that concern. And at the end of it all, he saw it, he appreciated Nigerians. So whenever he is done on the national team jersey, remembering that when at his difficult time, Nigeria stood up for him. Don't you think that he will add more effort to repay Nigerians back? These are some of the things. It is not necessary that they must visit him there, but one or two calls just to, talk to these players. It makes them feel at home. It makes them being cared for. And whenever they come here, they are going to give out their best.
But Mike, I think that's exactly your opinion. But for me, I feel if we want to win the AFCON, if we want to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, the performance of the Super Eagles really have to improve. You can take a look at the last ranking. I think they were ranked either 40th or something.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they actually trashed Sao Tome and Principe, they couldn't actually move up, in the ranking. So that's what to say. The performance of the Super Eagles really have to improve. Don't forget, yes, but we'll be seeing a friendly against Saudi Arabia, and then we'll see how they perform against Saudi Arabia. So for me, I think Pesero need to step up his game.
I think I quite agree with you.
The players as well need to step up their game on the pitch. We should see more synergy, more chemistry. We have, just like you mentioned, we have good players playing abroad, playing in different countries, different continents. So we don't lack the player. Even as it stands now, Pesero is having headache in selecting strikers in the team. So we have the players. It's then left for the coach to be able to utilize this player. Let them perform very well on the pitch and give us the results.
Sure, in that area, I want to agree with you. There is need for the NFF to organize grade A friendly matches. I keep hammering on this. We are just they just put up 2 friendly matches that we are going to take part during the international window break. Now, you ask the level of the quality of these teams that we are going to play. These are some of the problems. So even if we get to win those games and there is another monthly ranking comes up, do you think that we are going to jump up high? Consider the caliber or the quality of the team that we are playing the friendly games. All these things matters. It culminates to you having more points during the monthly release of countries' standings in the world. So for me, I think the national team, the players as well, they need to step up. Pesero need to step up. Though Pesero have set a template for himself, saying that his target is the Nations Cup.
How realistic?
I quite agree with him. Thank God they did not show him the exit door. Nigeria came in their numbers to add their view that the coach should be retained. And I think the men at the glass house, they hearkened to the voices of Nigeria, saying that we should retain Pesero and possibly allow him to take these boys to the Nations Cup and see how he's going to perform in the Nations Cup. If actually he does well in the Nations Cup, then we are going to evaluate his performances and thereby giving him new contract if actually we are convinced with his performances. So definitely the coach as well need to step up, because as it stands right now, we cannot say this is the philosophy of Pesero when it has to do with the national team. What we are playing now is just individual football. We can't say that we are strong in a midfield, we are strong in a wing. So as it stands, the coach, totally, I agree with you, need to step up his game. But as well, NFF need to do their own bidding as well. No matter how patriotic you might be, and no matter how good you want to show to Nigerians that you are good, and whenever you are done on that jersey that you want to give your all. But if the men behind the corridor of power talking about the NFF, if they don't show this concern to you, if they don't come up when you need them, if they don't stand up to do the right thing as at when they should do it, for example, players will be owed match bonuses and allowances, whereas provisions have been made for that. Some people just sit there and try to use the money instead of developing the sport. They rather develop their pocket.
Super Falcons went to the World Cup without match bonuses, but they still played well.
They still played well, no doubt. But is it right? It is not right.
Okay,
so
Michael,
these are some of the issues.
All right.
They need to do the right thing. I agree that there is need for the coach to improve. The Super Eagles need to improve as well. But the NFF, on their own part, have their own, matters to also sort out.
I also believe as well it's a collective effort, and we'll see how this one will help. I know this target of Gusu, talking about the NFF president winning the AFCON, and as well, qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. But let's start away from the Nigerian scene as we take a look at other matters as well as the audio recording of a discussion between the match officials around Luis Diaz and his allowed goal against Tottenham have been made public. Liverpool asked referee body PGMOL for the audio after the controversy in the first half for their 2-1 defeat. And video assistant referee Darren England did not overrule when Liverpool Diaz was wrongly flagged offside. But Michael, we've actually listened to that audio. What do you make of the conversation we had from there?
Out that it wasn't an offside. Then the center ref told them that it was late. He can't do that because play has resumed, and that would be against the rules of the game to want to call them back. So for me, I think it's a total shame and sham on the side of VAR officials, and it goes a whole long way to put a question mark on the activities of English ref and the VAR officials over the couple of years now. If we are beginning to have this kind of inconsistencies in decision making, I think it is going to take away the beauty, the passion, of the beautiful game called football out there. And I believe Liverpool are not happy about this. But this time around, it didn't favor them, and that is why they are crying foul. Remember last time out when Chelsea played with Liverpool, there was a certain goal that Romelu Lukaku scored, and they blew it for an offside. But it was later discovered that that goal wasn't an offside. But they got the victory. But this time around, the table has turned against them, and that is why they are crying foul. But of a whole, I think there is need for the VAR officials to do the right thing, because the English league is one of the most watched league in the world. And when we are beginning to have this kind of controversies, it doesn't speak good of it.
Doesn't speak good at all. And the coach of the side, Jurgen Klopp, has come out to say that the match, should be replayed. But we keep our fingers crossed to hear what the Premier League organizers, will do at this point. But let's talk about the Champions League. Michael, Arsenal suffered their first defeat, of the season as they were beaten by Lens by 2-1 in that particular encounter. What went wrong for Arsenal yesterday in that game?
It was a very disappointing display from Arsenal yesterday. I think Mikel Arteta should, take the responsibility for that, because Bukayo Saka wasn't 100% fit for that game, but he had to also risk him in that game. Whereas we have other players that should have come into the play, into the fold for Bukayo Saka, probably introduce him in the second half, about 70 minutes or thereabout. And again, starting Edin Ketia is one, decision that I've tried to wrap up my head around the reason behind Mikel Arteta standing Edin Ketia. I can't still figure it out, because the Nketiah is not that you can always bank on. And again, you must not take anything away from the long side, though they are not doing very well this time around in their league out there. They are seated 15th in the League One table, meeting a formidable Arsenal team that have been doing pretty well in the Premier League and also in the Champions League in their first game. Putting in 4 goals behind their opponent in their last Champions League game. You should expect them to do more better job at France at Lens yesterday, but it was quite a disappointing one. They didn't get a result. And for me, that is the beauty of the Champions League, because this is where the big boys play.
Interesting one. As a teaser, we hope, of course, Arsenal will bounce back in their next encounter. We hope some of the injured players will get back into the team, because they have an interesting encounter this weekend against Manchester City. We hope, of course, we'll see these players, bouncing back to execute that encounter for their fans. Let's talk about another encounter. Manchester United. Of course, as it stands now, they are in danger because they've suffered 2 defeats in the UEFA Champions League this season. And they only lost at home yesterday to Galatasaray. 3-2 ended in that particular encounter. And courtesy of that loss, it is their 3rd defeat at home. A very, very poor run of form for Manchester United in the Premier League as well as the Champions League.
Very poor run of form, and this is the worst, season for Manchester United as a football club. For them to have, played 7 games in the league, lost 4 out of those 7 games. That is their worst run ever in the history of Manchester United, and this is their first time of losing back-to-back Champions League game as well. Played a few matches and considered about 18 goals or thereabout this season alone. I think
18 goals in 10 matches.
18 goals in 10 matches. He put to question why David De Gea was let go, and he put to question on why Eric Ten Hag, on how Eric Ten Hag has been able to manage his team over a couple of weeks right now when the league kicked off. So for me, I think as it stands, Manchester United is in a danger, just like you said, of losing out on the Champions League for the for some time now. Manchester United, they have been on the downward spiral because we've not seen the best of Manchester, who were very formidable out there. And yesterday I mentioned some key players that will come to the party, and truly they did not disappoint yesterday. The likes of Idris Mentes, likes of Wilfred Zaha, just mention them. Maro Icardi, these are men that I mentioned yesterday that is going to trouble Manchester United, and I actually predicted that Manchester United is going to, lose that game yesterday at Old Trafford, and that is what happened. And again, you must also, look at the goalkeeping aspect. Is Onana doing the right thing? And for me, I think Onana out there. There's a time that he needs to come out. He stays back. Even if you take a look at the second goal where he was supposed to come out for the game, he had to stay back and allow, see that with Zaha, to chip in the ball behind the back of the net. So for me, I think generally it was a poor outing for Manchester United yesterday. There is need for Ten Hag to go back to the drawing board and see how he can be able to, talk to the players and be able to, give them that pep talk to change their psychology heading to their next game. If not, I tell you, Manchester United might possibly exit the group stage of the Champions League.
Another result we saw yesterday, FC Union Berlin, they lost to Braga by 3-2. Red Bull Salzburg lost to Real Sociedad by 2. PSV played 2-2 against Sevilla, as Lens beat Arsenal by 2-1 in that particular encounter. For today, we'll see some interesting games as Antwerp against will be national against Shakhtar Donetsk, and Atletico Madrid will be national against Feyenoord, Borussia Dortmund against AC Milan, Celtic will be national against Lazio, and Vesna will be national against Young Boys. We'll see Porto against Barcelona. Newcastle United will be national against Paris, and Paris Saint-Germain, and Leipzig against Manchester City. Michael, what do you make of the encounter tonight in the Champions League as well?
Very tricky encounters, you want to say, especially that of PSG Newcastle. PSG has not been doing well in their league this season. They are seated 5th on the French Ligue 1, and they have not been very consistent, this season. They have been able to, they have not been able to convince, their fans out there this season. And Newcastle on the other side as well, you may say that they have not been doing pretty well in the league as well, but they have just started to pick up, the fire from when they stopped last season. So you want to say that it's a crunch tie out there, and it's going to be a very tricky one. But at the end of it all, I think PSG, is going to go for victory. Why? Because of the experience, that they have in the Champions League. Because at this stage in time, experience also counts in Champions League. And again, another game that will have interest out there for me, I think, is Barcelona versus FC Porto is another big game that we need to watch out for. Why? Because Barcelona is they are, getting back their mojo, and FC Porto, they are not doing badly well. So you expect a blockbuster game in that very one tonight.
Interesting one, and let's see how it is. And I think Newcastle, of course, should be showing forth themselves. I think this is going to be the first time that we're playing at home, talking about the UEFA Champions League after a very, very long time.
Yeah, and you want to say that the home crowd as well will go a whole long way to motivate them, and those players to want to, put in their best. And one of their man who you want to say that is very deadly in front of goal, talking about Isak, is one man that you can always rely on to get you the goal whenever, the chips are down. Generally, I think Newcastle front lines, they are very up and doing this time around. That PSG need to be very, very careful. And what the English fan bring to the table whenever you come to their backyard. The noise alone, the intimidating crowd is enough for you to, give up hope of winning them. But like I said, experience will also count in this very one.
Experience, of course, will count in this encounter, and we'll see what comes up, of course, for Newcastle. Paris Saint-Germain, of course, will be, of course, motivated with their key man, talking about Kylian Mbappe, and I think it's going to be another time where we see Paris Saint-Germain going to the UEFA Champions League without the likes of Lionel Messi, and Neymar Jr. as well. This time around, they have just one man, talking about Kylian Mbappe, heading them, to glory. We have the likes of Ousmane Dembele as well in that side. But this is a Paris Saint-Germain side that is looking forward to get themselves, shaped in another way under Luis Enrique, the new manager of the side now. I don't know what you make of their setup so far. Are they looking very convincing? Because their problem and their target has been to win the UEFA Champions League. How realistic do you see Luis Enrique, of course, bringing these huge, targets to PSG?
Well, I think it will be a very
targets to PSG.
Well, I think it will be a very difficult one, to be honest with you. Though this is a new PSG look team, because the likes of just the ones you mentioned, the likes of Ramos, Neymar, Lionel Messi, and some other players, some other key players that left the Parisian club. I think Luis Enrique coming in, trying to build by getting one or two, signing out there and trying to instill his own philosophy into the PSG team. I think it will take time, but gradually they are beginning to show that synergy, because in their 5 games they've played so far, they've played. They find it difficult to get that ball behind the back of the net. It's just that in nick of time, Mbappe will just pop up and deliver when it matters most. But in this kind of big game, you don't always rely on one man, to deliver the goodies. You must play as a team. You must show that strong character on the pitch of play. You must also show that coordination and that finishing touch out there need to come in. But for me, I think it's going to be a very difficult mountain to climb for Luis Enrique to be able to galvanize these new crops of players, trying to blend it with the old ones and to go for the Holy Grail, talking about the Champions League, to leave the Champions League this season. I think it will be very, very difficult for me. It's a big mountain to climb, like I said. But then again, you can never take anything away from football.
Very huge mountain to climb, of course, for Luis Enrique. Can he deliver the Champions League to PSG? Keep our fingers crossed and see how that one pounds out. But at this point in time, we'll call it a wrap on the show. We'll be back tomorrow by 9 a.m. to bring you the latest result from the UEFA Champions League. Been an interesting time, taking you through the water sports with Michael. Thanks very much, of course, for stopping by, Michael.
Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you to our viewers out there.
All right, we can't go without telling you that Lens, the RR Sport Extraordinaire, on today's edition of the show, they completed a comeback win in their first Champions League home game in 20 years. An impressive one, of course, for the Lens team, and we hope they continue with this impressive performance, despite the fact that, yes, we're not seeing that sparkling performance, in their league. But take a wrap. I will call it a wrap at this point. Don't forget peace and unity with the pathways to progress. My name is Kingsley Manuel. Thanks for watching.